Once you have all of your tracking and conversion pixels in place and you're starting to build up your custom audiences, it's time to actually create and run your advertising campaigns. So for our entry-level content, so that would be key content pages, articles, blog content, low friction stuff, that's what we're going to be promoting to broader audiences rather than just trying to get everyone into our sales page. And the purpose of that is, of course, to get them to consume the content and to build up your brand profile and build your reputation with them, but it's also so that we can start getting the pixel info on them and to start building up our website custom audiences that we can then use to send them more targeted ads based on what they do once they actually get to our site. So we're going to be looking at a pretty basic, straightforward ad campaign that we're going to send out for our 30-day challenge. Now, of course, when we talked about sending out broader ads to larger audiences, the idea has been that you wouldn't use those audiences for your lead magnets. But with the 30-day challenge, because it's bigger and it's more compelling, it's more involved than a standard email opt-in bribe, where usually people will just offer an ebook or a short 3-part course. We want to go a bit broader, a bit wider with promoting the 30-day challenge. Another main factor in this is obviously this is part of a launch strategy and a launch campaign. So for that, we're pushing the board out a little bit more in terms of how wide we're going with the audience for our ads. So within our ad manager, we simply click on create ad to start a new campaign. And the first thing it's going to ask is, what is the objective of the campaign you're running? Is it to boost a post that you may have made on your business page? Is it to promote your business page, send people to your website, so on and so on? We're going to select increase conversions on your website because that's ultimately what we want. We want email opt-ins. The page we want to promote is our 30-day challenge page. So what we're going to do is we take the web address for that, and because we're using Google Analytics to track the traffic and stuff like that, and obviously we want to know how effective this advertising campaign is, we want to do a couple of little things to the URL, to the web address, before we actually put it into our Facebook ad. So if you just search for Google URL Builder, then you should easily be able to find this page here, and there'll be a link alongside the course as well. And what this does is it lets you add a few things onto the website address that can then be picked up on by Google Analytics for the purposes of really just identifying advertising campaigns, sources of traffic, stuff like that. So we put the basic URL in here, and then for our campaign source, we're going to put Facebook. Medium, we're going to put CPC, so that's cost per click. The campaign term, the campaign content, we're only going to run one ad for now, so we don't really need these. You would usually use these to differentiate stuff. And the campaign name, we're going to just put 30DC ad and then generate the URL. And you'll see here what this does is it gives you a URL with a couple of things on the end that then gets used by Google Analytics for breaking down and filtering down into different traffic sources. And it's really useful for being able to actually determine return on investment, stuff like that. So we pop that URL into our Facebook ad campaign builder and just wait for it to pull the stuff in. Once it's pulled in the URL, it will then ask you what conversion pixel you want to use. So we've obviously set up our conversion pixels earlier on, and the one we want to use is our 30-day challenge sign up pixel. So that's the pixel that is going to fire when somebody visits the thank you page for our 30-day challenge sign up. So what this does is Facebook will then monitor that pixel in relation to this advert, so it'll know whether the traffic that you sent from this ad is actually responsible for the sign up, and that's how you determine how well your ad's doing, what your return on investment is, and so on. We click through and continue, give it a name, so we'll just call it 30DC signups. And this is where we start to plumb in the details of the audience that we want to reach. So we've set up our different custom audiences, and obviously you can both include and exclude, which is very, very useful here when it comes to drilling down into the audience you want to use. So we previously set up our lookalike audience, and that's people who are similar to people who'd already signed up for our email list. So we want to go for that. That's 2.38 million. There we go. And that's lookalikes in the US. We also want to include anyone who's visited the 30-day challenge landing page, but we want to exclude anyone who has opted into the 30-day challenge. And I've got two lists for this. Obviously these are new audiences, so the numbers are small, but we want to exclude a manual list, and that's a list of people who I previously uploaded from my email service provider, and obviously we want to exclude those because those people already opted in, so we don't want them seeing the ad. And also the website custom audience we set up earlier. So with this all set up, we are targeting people who have previously visited our website, as well as a lookalike audience based on those people. We're also showing it to people specifically who visited the 30-day challenge landing page, but we're excluding anyone who has previously opted in for the 30-day challenge, because obviously we don't want those guys seeing this ad because they've already signed up. And because we're using a website custom audience, as people sign up for the 30-day challenge, they then automatically just become excluded from these ads too. So that's very handy. So we've got that all set up there. We also want to sort out our location information. So at the minute it's targeting the United Kingdom, but this is a worldwide thing. So let's target the US, Canada, Australia, basically all English speaking, or countries where English is the primary language. Go with Ireland. There's probably some I'm forgetting there, but just for the purposes of getting through it there. So you'll see here it's given us a potential reach of about 2.3 million. It's not age or gender specific. We will put in English as a language simply because all the material is going to be in English, and it's going to be much harder to follow along for non-English speakers, obviously. So there we go. So we got our main audience set up here, and obviously you can tweak this as you need for your own ads. So we scroll down there, we start setting up our daily budget. So we're going to go with a daily budget of just $10 for this. We're not going with a huge spend. And we can set a start and end date, and because the actual challenge is going to be kicking off on a specific date, but we actually want to limit how long they'll actually run for. And obviously if you set the budget and your start and end date, it'll give you an idea of what your daily reach is going to be. So of the 2 million or so potential reach, then we're going to hit about, well, between about 5 and 13,000 people per day, and we're running it over 4 or 5 days. So that gives us a decent reach. If we wanted to reach more of our potential audience, then obviously we just increase our daily budget. But to start off with, we're going to keep our budget at $10 to $20 while we get an initial read on how well it does. And then obviously if we're getting a great return from it, then we can adjust the budget accordingly. And there's various different options here that you don't really need to go into right now, but the more tailored your ads need to be, the more specific they are. So for example, if you only want to show your ads to people in the UK, you might actually set the ad scheduling here. So if we click on more, you can actually set the ads to run on a schedule. That's if you're using a lifetime budget rather than a daily budget. And then you can set the times that the ads will actually run between two. So we'll just give this a name. So this is dossiers and lookalike. The next step is to actually create the advert itself. Now, because you put the URL to the page in there, then it'll automatically pull in some information from the URL that you put. You're probably going to want to customize this a little bit, but it just gives you a starting point. So already it's pulled in the image that we actually do want to use. Now, one thing that you'll need to take note of when it comes to the images for your advert is that Facebook only allows 20% of any images you use in your ads to contain text. Now you'll see here that we've very specifically made sure that we're not really using too much of the space of the image for text. So if you use more than 20%, chances are your advert will actually be rejected. Fortunately, there are a number of different tools out there. So we've got a one here which is from a company called Social Contests, where you can actually check the image. So if we see their example, you would actually upload your image and then just tick the boxes where there is text, and it'll actually tell you what percentage from Facebook's point of view your image contains text. So before you upload any images, you might want to run it through one of these image checkers just to make sure, because otherwise you can find your ads getting rejected and not really knowing why. So make sure you check that out for your ads. This one we've pre-checked and it's all fine. But what we want to do is actually customize the content of the ad here. So we want to keep it pretty simple. We can edit the headline, we can edit the text. So obviously we'll just go through and we'll change all the text and the headlines, and click on advanced options, and it lets you also edit the text that appears here too. So if you tinker with that and get it just the way you want it. So of course, as you edit the different options here for the ad, it'll update on the right hand side in real time, and you can also get a preview not only of how it'll show up in your newsfeed, but how it'll show on the mobile newsfeed in the right hand side, and also out there in the audience network. Now, we don't want to use the audience network. We only want our ad shown on Facebook. We're happy enough to keep this running on the right hand column in Facebook. And we're also going to leave it running on mobile as well. Now, if you're running your advert on mobile, you need to make sure that your website's mobile friendly too. Otherwise, you'll get a lot of people clicking through your site and finding themselves either unable to use it or finding it far too difficult to use on their mobile, so they'll just not bother signing up at all. And when your ad's actually running, it'll break things down into these 3 different locations so you can see which is doing better. And if you need to, you can remove certain options too. So now we've got everything set up. We're happy with the copy, the image, all the advertising budget, and everything's all set up properly. So we're simply going to click on place order, and it'll submit our advert for approval. And you'll see here the order's been placed, it's now in review, and we simply continue on. So after a short review period, Facebook will come back, and obviously if they approve the ad and they're happy with everything that's set up, then the advert will start running within a couple of hours. And then once we start getting actual conversions, because we've specified the conversion pixel that we want to measure, it'll start to actually show the number of conversions that we've had there too. Another thing to take note of is this column here where it says relevance score. Now, when your ad shows up in people's news feeds, they have the ability to hide that ad if they don't want to see it. And when they do so, there's a few different options Facebook gave as a way of them explaining why they don't want to see your advert. Now, if they say that it's not relevant to them or it's spammy or anything like that, that will actually affect your relevance score. So if your targeting of your ads is really off the mark and you're getting a lot of people hiding your ad because it's not relevant to them, your relevance score will drop, and obviously if it drops too much, then Facebook will start taking notice and could very well block the ads that you're putting out. So that's why it's important, and this is where this whole strategy really helps, because we're making sure that we are sending out stuff to people who are our ideal target audience and who are going to be more in tune with the ads that we're putting out there. But it's definitely a metric that you want to keep an eye on because it may well just be a case of tweaking your audience or making a change to the ad itself. So now you've seen how to actually set up your ads and how easy it is to really include and exclude the different custom audiences that we previously set up, as well as where your conversion pixels come into play as well. So now you're able to go out there and start creating your own ads, sending your broader entry-level content to your interest lists and your lookalike lists, and then serving up different, more targeted ads to people who fall into your custom audiences and who have performed certain actions or conducted certain activity on your website. Now, if you're still quite early on in the development and the progression of your membership site, maybe you're not sure what you want to advertise, then looking at what the most popular blog posts and the most popular content on your website is gives a good indication of what people actually want to see and what your audience is interested in. So that's a great place to start off with when it comes to sending out your broader advertising to your lookalike or your interest audiences. And of course, if you've got your website up and running, you've got a blog in place, you should already have some form of email opt-in lead magnets or something to encourage people to opt into your email list. And that's what you can then advertise to your website custom audiences and the people who've already visited your website as a way to move them on down your lead generation and your sales promotional funnels. So the action steps for this module is to create your first Facebook ads in line with this new strategy. So like we said, the easiest place to start is with your entry-level content, simply with the purpose of getting people onto your website so we can start to tag them, pixel them, and build up our custom audiences. And then once those ads are in place, then we can start looking at the more targeted stuff that's really going to drive your lead generation and then signups for your membership site. And when it comes to actually creating the creative elements and the images for your ads, make sure that you're sticking within the 20% image to text ratio rule. And this link here that comes along with this module should help you out with that. And it's also worth making sure you check out Facebook's terms and conditions on advertising, as they give you some really useful information that you're going to need to know in terms of what sort of language you can use, what sort of claims you can make, and so on.